Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Cammy and Karen Go Keto, where we are with Mike Collins today, our sugar-free man and founder of the Quit Sugar Summit and an expert in sugar addiction. And we are right now starting to roll on the conversation that we were having about me and Karen and some communication issues.
Well put.
Where I tell Karen that I've learned my lesson about something, and then she continues to want to communicate with me about that lesson. And the reason why she wants to communicate is because I do things and say things that indicate that I haven't learned the lesson, which apparently I don't really even realize that I'm doing, but that's why I get frustrated.
So Cammy and I had this conversation about some behavior of hers on the weekend. Was it the weekend? I don't know.
Yeah.
My days are all screwed up. So anyway, I'll describe it and then I'll throw it out there for Mike and Cammy to talk about. So this is how it shows up for me. Cammy had an Easter party and invited 14 people over. And we talked about it before she had the party, during and after the party. And she bought a chocolate cake to present to everybody for dessert. And before she presented it, we made a video about it. And I said, "Why are you presenting chocolate cake? It's pure sugar. And you claim that sugar is poison. So why don't you just take the cake back and just present your friends and family with a can of Drano instead, because that poison is much clearer to them than giving them cake." And so I asked Cami to look at her conversation. Does she really believe that sugar is poison? Because I believe that if you really believe sugar is poison, you don't ask people that you care about or people you hate to partake in it. And her comment to me was, well, they're adults, they can make up their own mind. And apparently Cami thinks she's the only sugar addict in the world, because I believe there were probably people there who probably don't need somebody pushing a drug onto them if they are addicts, or don't know that they're addicts, or just if they, a lot of people, it's groupthink for sugar or addiction, and they see the cake and everybody else is eating it. So even if Cami is not eating it, and I applaud Cami because she said she didn't eat it, and that is a perfect step in progress for her. Because a lot of times in the old days, that would be, well, I gave it to everybody else. I'm just going to have a little tiny bit. And this was, she ate none. So that is huge. That's really huge. Says that. But I love Cami dearly, probably more than anybody else in the world besides my family. And I don't think she's clear on the conversation and the communication she makes when she offers sugar or talks about sugar, because some of these people are her children. And really, if you really think that sugar is that bad for people, why are you giving it to them? And you don't have to be that person. And to look at the conversation, because she says, oh, I want to fit in, I want to belong. It's like, wait, they've decided to come to your house before they even know about the chocolate cake. So I don't think that that's true. Maybe she wants it to look like everything is normal, right? Everybody else offers chocolate cake to their guests when they have people over for Easter. Well, everybody except for carnivores, right? And everything is not normal. Cammy's in a position where she wants to lose 100 pounds. That ain't normal. Well, hopefully it's not normal. So my conversation is not so much that I don't believe her. I know that she wants it to be true. I think that until she looks at the underlying process, the underlying reasoning for doing it, because obviously she thought it was, well, you don't know this, but she did say she wasn't going to do it anymore, right? She said, now all my future get togethers will not have that dessert. So there's an understanding there then what she did was not appropriate for her. And so my question is, what's the whole conversation there of, if that's what the case was when I said throw the cake away, and now it's I'm never going to do it again, then what's the conversation of, but this one incident was fine to do? And, was it all just over? Because there's an underlying conversation for Cami. It was $12. She wasn't going to waste the money. She already bought it. She was already committed. So there's a commitment there. So that's what happened. As far as that's my reality as to what happened.
Cammy, go ahead.
So, yes, there is always a money issue around a lot of my food stuff. That's true. I have money issues that kind of interwrap around the food stuff because almost always that's true. And so I do, so my side of the story is that part of me says, well, 1/3 of people can eat sugar in a regular way, 1/3 are harmful users, and 1/3 are addicts. And so I think that yes, sugar is poison, but it's not my job to have somebody who is a regular user of sugar decide whether or not they are going to have that small piece of cake or not have it. But there are people in the audience, like the kids in particular, who each ate 2 pieces, who had no business eating 2 pieces, but their parent was there and said that they could have 2 pieces. So they don't need to be doing that. And I know that that's not, the healthiest thing to be doing and making those decisions. And so for my next parties, and the other thing too is that there's a persona around you, right? That like I'm trying to create. Like Cammy, Aunt Cammy is the healthy one. Aunt Cammy serves fruit for dessert. Aunt Cammy, is the one that always has, lots of protein and vegetables, at her place. Like I'm trying to create this new person instead of somebody who's going to people please and somebody who's going to want to fit in and somebody who's going to want to look normal and all those things. And it's a process. I'm getting better and better at it, but I am still in this situation where I get caught up in the, oh, yes, oh, let me have a piece of chocolate cake. And, it was the hit of the party, I have to say. It was extremely good, apparently, and everybody really enjoyed it and raved about it. And so, that makes me feel good. Like, oh, I made these people happy, even though I was giving them, poison. It's not quite as bad as Drano, but I'm a process. I'm in
Okay,
process.
so here's a good analogy, and then I'll let you
Hey,
in,
wait,
Mike. Okay, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you go.
No, because I was going to say, do you want to let Mike in? But go ahead and do the
Okay, now I want
analogy.
Mike to go in here. Why don't we just say instead of providing chocolate cake, you provided a couple of porn videos, right? Pretty much everybody at the party might have enjoyed a porn video. And maybe the little kids shouldn't have seen 2 porn videos, but their parents were there and didn't say anything about it. And no, you're not the one in charge of making those decisions for people. But you didn't provide any porn videos, Cammy. You provided a chocolate cake. And the conversation that you're continuing by saying it's the hit of the party is going to continue your conversation of eating sugar is okay. And you quoted something saying a third of the people can handle sugar. A third of the people are, can't, and a third of the people are addicted or whatever. And that may go as far as addiction, but that doesn't change the fact that that's a different conversation than carnivore. So you have to look to yourself to see what do you really think is true, right? Because a little porn hasn't hurt anybody, but there are a lot of people who a lot of porn does not help. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. I was telling Cammy I think I need new glasses because these guys are falling apart. The stuff's falling apart on 'em. Okay, so I think the issue is settled. I think you guys have worked it out.
Tell
Think,
everybody how that is.
and no, I think that we are all that are listening to this, I'm sure, in the process that Cammy's in. And while I agree with the poison part, and I agree that likely in the future there shouldn't be any chocolate cakes. Cammy's got to start planting her flag. I've never met anybody that just snaps their fingers and it all changes. Their whole life changes overnight. It's a pendulum effect. You'll get a little radical and then you'll come back. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree it's poison. I agree it's, definitely shouldn't be around. But, this is a decades long issue that Cammy's been working out or working through. And this is how her parties used to go. And blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's really, we're in the middle of walking through a process. Like Cammy said, we're in the middle of changing. What's the AA phrase? It's a simple program. You just have to change your whole life, right? Here we are changing our whole life. Like, it's like, it's not going to be the same at Aunt Cammy's house anymore. And that's a hard thing to do right away, just snap your fingers and do. And then, it's funny you're talking about the money thing, is where we were discovering that a lot of our folks have shopping issues or money issues along with their food addiction or their sugar addiction. And the two are intertwined because, as you're young, you got to steal the money, you got to find the money, you got to whatever to get your treats or what have you. And when you add it up, sometimes it's definitely a car payment a month, and for some people, it's approaching a mortgage payment a month, depending on where you live. So it's a lot of money that you were spending on sugar, and so anyway, it's I think we're through it, and I think it's. But let's look at the larger picture of the whole thing. This is the conversations that you have to have with people, the conversations that Cammy was able to avoid. Like, I don't think anyone would have asked, but the conversations that you want to avoid are explaining this thing over and over to people, the saying no's, all these kind of things that you got to explain to people all the time. It's just easier to have a cake around and let them dig in or whatever. So the emotional work of, setting up those boundaries, and that's what this is. This is a boundary, personal boundary and a social boundary with the folks that are, who remember her as having a really nice spread of sweets. You know what I mean? Like, she is going to be different.
Now, Mike, in your experience, do people who recover from binge eating live vicariously through others?
Oh, that's a good question. And, you can relate it to drinking or whatever, but you definitely get to the place where you may have already arrived a little earlier than Cammy, where, you feel like sad for people, you feel sad for people that still drink or people that still are, they're abusing your body, no matter how big a smile they have on their face when they're in that chocolate cake. You get to a place of real empathy for them not understanding that it is poison. So that's also a process, but there's a little envy that would lead to vicarious thoughts. That goes away pretty quickly.
But what I'm asking is, was that maybe something that Cammy was doing, right? So she's two things about Cammy. It could be part of her conversation about the money, because Cammy's always had this conversation about the binge eating, which, by the way, she's gone, I don't know, almost 2 months without a binge. So, hallelujah. And the conversation for Cammy has definitely changed regarding binge eating. So my question is, so in her transition or in this process that she's going through, binge, for her, she always used to say, oh no, once I'm committed, I am committed. She's not going to change her mind. She is going to have that binge. And I'm wondering if there's a commitment level with the money. No, I've committed money, and that has a special significance for Cammy, so that's sort of that same hook or that same anchor in her brain that I've made this commitment. I'm going to carry through this commitment. And now she's changing the commitment, right? But for this particular thing, for the chocolate cake, she was not going to throw it out. She was not going to just give it to somebody and say, put this in your car before the party. This was, I'm going to, present it to everybody. And then my vicarious thing is, what maybe she had some sort of dopamine hit from going up. It could go two ways. The commitment to the cake and presenting to the people that she loved, and at least they get to enjoy it. She might not get to enjoy it, but they do.
All right, that's exactly what it is. What you just said is exactly what it is. What it is there is definitely a dopamine hit in pleasing others and not worrying that they didn't get what they wanted, right? And that's back down to boundaries, okay? It's not her job always, it is occasionally, but not always, to please someone, to get them what they want at the detriment of risking her own sobriety, right? And so, again, we're in that middle ground where we're transitioning to the new person, literally becoming a new person, a different person. So yeah, it's that.
Yeah, and it's a tricky situation to be in. If you're going to really go through transformation, it's like the caterpillar and the butterfly, there's that like liquid situation. I am sitting like I'm in the middle. I can tell because there's things that when we're having this conversation, I know that there's a mismatch and I'm very incongruent in some things that I think and feel. And like, for instance, I'm serving a chocolate cake to these people, but I'm a sugar detox and addiction coach. And that doesn't sit right with me. That's kind of like, but I don't think about that when I'm out buying the cake because I'm getting that dopamine high. I mean, I get that dopamine when I look at the cake. I get it when I buy it. I get it when I take it out to cut it. And this cake, when I was cutting it, it was a long rectangular cake and I wasn't sure if there was going to be enough for everybody. So I was like trying to gauge how big to make the slice. And it was a very rich cake so that people did not need a lot of it, were enjoying just a little small amount. And it was kind of like, Passover and the candles, the cake just kept going. And I ended up getting like 20 pieces out of this cake. There were 18 people there and I got like 22 pieces or something. And
Yeah,
so anyway, I feel like I didn't think before I started buying the cake. I just, but now there are times where I'll think before I do something. Like if I'm at Costco and I'm buying something there and I'm thinking about buying a cookie, I'll just say, no, I don't do that. I'm not going to do that. That's not what I'm up to anymore. That's not what I'm doing. And it won't happen. And that's getting easier and easier and easier. And now the last few times I've been there, I don't even think about it. I'm just like, if I'm going to get anything, it's a hot dog without a bun. And so I do see where there's progress. Like I remember at the very beginning when I first started working with you, Mike, and I thought about the idea of not eating like ever in my life this particular candy that has a coating on it and chocolate and peanuts in the middle. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to go the rest of my life without eating that. And now I'm just so thrilled. I'm like, oh my God, if I never eat that again, that's going to make me feel so good. And I'm going to be so happy. So I see where I'm making progress, but I also see where there's that incongruency and I need to work, I'm working toward it. But I do get the dopamine hits from it. And I know that that's part of it.
yeah. Again, I mean, we don't want to beat this behavior boundaries thing to death. Just know that it had very little to do with the cake. Just that, I think that's the important lesson here. It's very little to do with the manifestation of the whatever it was, the behavior. Um, it has to do with the change process to become different, to let go of deep limbic ingrained behaviors and in favor of a new you, a new boundary, a new thing. So next Easter, even next birthday or the next whatever, there'll be that funny fruit bowl or one of those blooming fruit bowls from one of those places that makes it like architect, whatever. It's going to always be different at Cammy's, and you may have to have the discussions then, you may have to but you'll be healed more. You'll be in a better place to just kind of smile and be humble about it and be down 40 pounds. You know what I mean? You'll be like, and they're not going to argue with you at that point. Not even that they would argue, but you would recognize, and you would there will not be a necessity for you to please them with that, maybe with something
Amen.
else. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Or even think to please them,
with the company of each other. That's what could please us. We had such a great time. And some of the people brought their own alcohol. Like, one particular couple brought a cooler with all their stuff in it to drink because they know I never serve alcohol at any of my functions. And it'll just be like that in the future. If they want all their junk and their poison, they can bring it themselves.
Got it.
Or not.
Or not.
I went to a house for a meal and one of my family members brought a bottle of wine and the owner of the house said, I don't allow alcohol in my house. Take it to your car.
Yeah, that's good. See, that's the discussion that Cammy, as a people pleaser, does not want to have right away. Like, then she shouldn't be having that discussion.
Right, because that could trigger something.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely true. Kudos to the person who had the courage and the boundaries to say something like that, but that's not where we are yet. And I don't think that's Cammy's style either.
We don't know what the new Cammy's going to be like. She may be
No.
militant.
The pendulum might swing all the way over.
Yeah,
And
I'm a friggin' sugar detox coach. Get that out of here.
it's going to be brutal for a while.
It's been, I'm getting militant and didn't get to be accused of militancy because, Jack, you guys know the story. I interviewed Elaine Lane, and she's 98, maybe 99 years old. She's about ready to get down and give me push-ups. She's doing bend or like something in the chair. She's doing exercises in the chair at 99, right? And I'm interviewing her, and she said Jack had a belief that he believes sugar caused everything, like every disease, everything that we think is aging, all your joints and your inflammation, your thyroid and your lupus and your, obviously the ones we know about, the fatty liver and the diabetes and heart disease. But he believed it caused everything.
Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, it's all there.
All the mental illnesses, it was all sugar. And, and he was able to deal with people over a 50-year career, not even what am I talking about? It was like a 70-year career where he would see people whose lives would change and their siblings would not, or whatever, and to see the difference. And I'm getting that point, So maybe militancy is in our future, Cam.
We could have uniforms and everything.
We should, definitely. We should have more swag, definitely. We should make popular, what's Chevy Chase used to say? I don't eat sugar and you do, or something, being a little bit nasty, one of the ones I like is fructose. It's like, you understand the spelling, right? It's like, I'm not, but people would be doing double takes on that one.
I saw that the other day. It said something like fox cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
The fox, it was F-O, and the C and the X turned into a K. It was like an X was a K on the side. It was clearly not saying fox.
Right. Well, fruct
is the same thing.
Fruc, fructose. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, Karen, I was just thinking this is a great time to talk about that. To just mention your Carnivore Health Alliance. That's a beautiful picture of it. We see it so clearly.
That's a not-for-profit I'm starting, and that is the pin or the logo.
That's very cool.
And tell him what it's going to do.
Oh, it's too long. He doesn't have much time. We'll talk about it on another one.
Okay, well, you and I could talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about, like, I do have to run, gang. Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay, but this was a great conversation, I think
it's
a great debate.
Yeah, there's one more.
I like that. I think if the folks remember this as a boundaries thing and a progression of the discussions and a progression of the, your stance, if it were a religious thing, people would know your religion or whatever it is, and I don't want this to become people's religion, but there has to be a way to set up boundaries so that people understand. Eventually people will stick up for you and they won't bring cakes to parties like this. They won't bring alcohol, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
One of the things that I heard in your conversation with you and Cammy, Mike, was this: old habit, old behavior. Cammy gets the dopamine hit and knows happiness.
Yeah.
New behavior, happiness is on the horizon.
Yeah.
But there's a chasm there that before Cammy never even saw, but now she sees it. But now it's how do I cross that chasm?
Yep. Oh, I like that.
It's really like, how do you say goodbye to the happiness that you had in the past when you know it worked? To dive into and jump into something brand new. not knowing if that happiness is going to
Yeah, it's
work.
also very deep limbic stuff. Dr. Lustig always says, it's very difficult to fight against that real bodily requirement of getting that dopamine hit the way that we've trained ourselves to get it.
Is that the one that babies get from nursing? Is it goes back that
No,
far?
absolutely. Gang,
All
I'm gonna let you
right.
guys continue. I really
All
appreciate.
right.
I will see you on the next event or next podcast. But keep up the good work.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mike.
All right, bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mike. Take care.